What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Concrete Edge right here on Deco-Crete TV. My name's Jeff, and on today's show we're going to be going over the differences between color hardener and integral color. I mean, they're both going to work to color your concrete, but there are some pretty big differences that are important to understand before deciding which one to use, so stay tuned and you're going to learn all about it. So if you're a contractor that's new to stamped concrete, or if you're a homeowner that's looking to have some concrete poured and stamped for you, I mean, one of the big debates is whether to use color hardener or integral color. Now, there's definitely no right or wrong here, and I mean, it really just comes down to what's going to work best for you. But we do feel it's important to understand the differences, so we're going to go over the pros and cons of each one. And first up is going to be integral color, which is definitely the most common way of coloring concrete. I mean, this kind of color is made from iron oxide pigment that gets mixed into the entire load. And some people really like the idea of this, and they feel safer knowing that the color is all the way through the concrete. Now, there is a little bit something to that, but for residential jobs, it's really not as big a deal as most people think, but more on that later. Now, some manufacturers might have liquid integral, some might have a finely ground powdered oxide, or the latest type of integral color, which comes as a granulated oxide. Now, they are all going to color the concrete the same way though, and it really just kind of comes down to what your local supplier has. If you do have the option, although, I will say that you should give granular a try because it does weigh less than liquid and it's really one of the easiest to dose. Now, I personally believe that integral color has been a big part of the growth of the stamped concrete industry over the last 20 years or so. I mean, if everybody still had to use color hardener, there probably wouldn't be as many contractors out there offering stamped concrete, which leads us to the first pro of integral color. It's just easier. I mean, it's easier to find, it's easier to use. I mean, at this point, there's stores in pretty much any part of the country that offer integral color. Now, that doesn't mean you're a beginner just because you use integral color. I mean, again, it is the most widely used, and there are plenty of contractors out there who use it every day for their entire careers and turn out great work. I mean, it is literally as simple as just adding the color to the drum of the truck and mixing it for about 20 minutes. Or even better than that, just take it to your ready mix plant and let them dose it to the truck before it even leaves the yard. That way it's got the entire trip to the job to mix. And some ready mix plants even have their own color system, so you can just order the color the same time you order the concrete. And that way you won't even have to worry about taking it to them. Now, after that, I mean, the pour is gonna go pretty much like any other, and I mean, that's it. The concrete's colored, now you can stamp it, broom it, I mean, pretty much finish it any way you want whenever the time's right. And you know, that's another one of the reasons why it is so popular. I mean, it's very little mess and no extra buckets to haul to the job site. And that kind of leads us to the next pro on the list, is that it is just cleaner. I mean, I don't really need to get too deep into this one, but if you get concrete dosed with integral color at the plant, I mean, the only mess that you're gonna have is inside that truck, which will cost you a little bit of money in washout fees, but you won't have to worry about any extra job site cleanup. So next up is less manpower, and that's not just for cleanup, but it's really for the coloring process. I mean, like we just talked about a second ago, the concrete is gonna come out of the truck already the right color. With color hardener, on the other hand, the process doesn't start until the concrete is on the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, stamping concrete with integral color is still a lot of work and you never want to leave yourself short-handed, but you don't have to worry about having a couple extra guys on the job just to get the concrete colored. So, exposed aggregate concrete is just another place where integral color makes a ton of sense. I mean, color hardener really isn't going to work for this, and if you tried, I mean, it's just all going to blow off when you expose the aggregate. Now, integral is also great for large broom jobs or even large, smooth finish floors. So, what about the fact that integral colors the concrete all the way through the slab? Well, I definitely understand if you think this is a big upside, and in some situations it could be. I mean, for road work, like roundabouts, or just other areas that get a lot of heavy traffic, they're not gonna see much maintenance over the years. I mean, having the slab colored all the way through does make some sense. I mean, honestly, we recommend using both integral and color hardener for those types of jobs, and that way you're gonna get the best of both worlds. Now, for your yard patio, however, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, you're not gonna have a snowplow running over it in the wintertime or any of the other wear that those other kind of slabs go through. I mean, concrete doesn't just start chipping up for no reasons. I mean, the most common thing that happens on residential jobs are just these little quarter-sized pop-outs. And when that does happen, the chip is always right on top of the stone. I mean, integral pigments might seem like they color the entire slab, but it really just colors the cementitious content and not the aggregates. So that stone that's always right underneath the pop out is just not going to be the right color anyways. I mean, my point here is that if a pop out or a chip does happen, you're probably going to want to get it patched, and integral is just going to be a lot harder to match the color than hardener is. So on to some cons for integral color, and the first thing is just consistency. I mean, it's just really hard to get consistent colors from pour to pour. I mean, even the same mix design from the same ready mix plant could end up looking a bit different. I mean, if your job only requires one truck, you're not going to have to worry about that. But just keep in mind that it is rare for integral color to match that color card perfectly. And we would never claim that two different pours of integral color would look exactly the same. Now, integral also only colors the concrete, and it doesn't add any extra strength. Now, I mean, it's certainly not going to weaken the concrete. It's going to perform just the same as uncolored concrete. So integral color also needs to be ordered by the yard, so if your customer decides to add some square footage last minute, you might have trouble getting more at short notice. And if your supplier makes the color on demand, you probably won't be able to return any either if the customer decides to switch colors at last minute. Now, on to color hardener, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, I mean, you probably already know that here at Deco-Crete, we're just big fans of color hardener. Now, this type of color does not get added to the truck at all. It gets cast on the surface of fresh concrete. And Jason introduced me to coloring concrete this way over 15 years ago, and it's really pretty much all we ever used for stamped concrete. With all the advantages of color hardener, I mean, for us, it was just kind of a no-brainer. Now, that being said, color hardener definitely isn't for everyone. I mean, it is a lot more work, and it is messy. I mean, hardener still gets its color from iron oxide pigments, but it also contains sand and cement, and when you cast that on the surface, that sand and cement just become part of the slab. I mean, it's almost like you're adding an extra layer of cement to the top of your concrete, which leads to extreme durability. And that's the first thing on the list of pros for color hardener. I mean, the surface of color hardened concrete will cure out to over 8,000 psi. And I would never tell somebody to throw salt on their concrete, but color hardener does have a lot more resistance to salt damage than integral or standard concrete. Now, beyond that, that dense surface just seems to hold up better long term, and again, I don't want to give the wrong idea here that integral color weakens the surface. It's just the fact that color hardener is definitely an upgrade over standard concrete. Now, next on the list is more color options. I mean, hardener gives you the freedom to create slabs that could be completely white or black if you wanted to. I mean, I know that that's pretty uncommon, but the point here is there's only so much you can do to change the color of gray concrete. And we've had multiple requests over the years for black driveways. I mean, some people just want this look that looks like asphalt, and others want something as dark as possible so the snow melts quicker in the wintertime. With integral color, it just never seems to be as dark as you wanted it, and those lighter shades, I mean, it's just pretty much impossible. With color hardener, on the other hand, the color is in the bucket, not in the truck, and the best part is that the colors all come at the same cost. So, no more last-minute updates on pricing for color changes. Now, being able to offer lighter shades is also going to win you some jobs. I mean, we have tons of photos and samples of stamped concrete using lighter shades of color hardener that just wouldn't be possible with integral. And homeowners see those and man, they just can't live without them. So the contractors that are able to offer this usually get those jobs. Now, the other thing you can do with color hardener is use multiple colors on the same slab. And this marbled look is just going to take your stamped concrete to a whole new level. Now, you're also going to get better impressions. I mean, because of that dense surface that color hardener creates, I mean, you're just going to notice that those the impressions left behind by the stamps are just going to be crisper and a lot more defined than that of uncolored or integrally colored concrete. So another pro for color hardener would be monolithic bands and borders. I mean, color hardener is going to allow you to separate colors on the same slab at the same time, and there's just no reason to form up borders separately to get that really defined look. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Thanks for sticking with us so far, and we just have a few more things to go, and the next on the list is steps. I mean, color hardener just makes stamped concrete steps so much easier. With integral color, I mean, you're gonna have to finish off those faces of the steps as you go along, and that can be really tough on hot days. Color hardener slurry is going to let you finish those risers after you're done stamping. I mean, it could be later that day, it could be the next day, pretty much whenever you want. Now, we used to pour a lot of big jobs that had multiple sets of steps, and that color hardener slurry just gave us the option to just spend an entire week pouring the job, and then we could just dedicate a whole day to nothing but finishing those step faces. I mean, honestly, if I could only use color hardener for one thing, it would probably be steps. Now, that slurry is also great for patching. I mean, the fact that color hardener only is coloring the surface of the concrete makes some people nervous, but like I said before, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, you can always make a slurry out of that same bucket of color hardener that you use for the job, and you can patch up whatever kind of chips or pop-outs might happen. And trying to match the color of integral to patch these spots, well, that's going to be a lot more difficult. Now this isn't only helpful on older slabs that have a little bit of wear, but you can use this to fix up blowouts or other imperfections that happen during the stamping process. Now other benefits to color hardener would include no washout fees, and if you really needed to, you could pour a small uncolored broom slab out of the same truck that you did your stamped concrete patio. So, of course, there are some disadvantages that come along with color hardener, and if you've been watching this video from the beginning, you're probably starting to put it together. The downsides of color hardener are basically going to be the upsides of integral. And first off, it is definitely dirty. To get that hardener on the slab, you're going to have to throw every last bit of it, and there's just no good way of doing this without getting it all over the place. Now, there are things you can do to protect the surroundings of the slab, and it will clean up. But just to be clear here, we never said that color hardener is a clean process. Now, you're also going to have to make smaller pours. Not just because of the manpower needed, but you can really only pour as wide as you can throw the hardener. An experienced installer should be able to throw about 15 to 20 feet, but that's it. So if you have a patio that's 40 feet long and you can only get to one side of it, it's really going to be tough to get that hardener all the way back to the walls, and that slab is probably going to need to be split into 2 pours. Now, with color hardener, it is possible to do this without seeing the cold joint, but it's just something to consider. Now, depending on where you live, it might also be tough to find a supplier that carries a large stock of color hardener, and you might have to pre-order to get the color and the amount that you need. Now, the last downside of color hardener, it's not really a downside, it's just facts, is you gotta have experience to use it. Heading to an 800 square foot stamp job using color hardener for the first time is just not a good idea. Especially if it's on a hot day. I can tell you that job will probably turn out worse than if you just use integral. And for that matter, if you're a homeowner trying to force color hardener on a contractor who's never used it before, is probably gonna backfire. Color hardener needs to be learned on small jobs first, hopefully in a cooler part of the day, and then you work your way up from there. If you're a DIYer doing your own stamped concrete slab, you should probably just stick to integral. So we're gonna finish things up here with just one final thought, is you can get some of the benefits of color hardener while still having the ease of integrally color by combining both of them on the same slab. Now, there's no way to get the durability of color hardener without fully broadcasting it, but you can create the monolithic borders by just using integral color for the main area and then color hardener on the border. Or you can also throw one cast of color hardener on top of your integrally colored concrete, and it'll create those same highlights, and it'll also help tie pours together from slab to slab. Now, you could also throw one cast of color hardener on top of integrally colored concrete, and this is going to create the highlight colors, and it will actually tie pours together on large multiple pour jobs. And the other benefit of doing this is it'll teach you how to throw and float in the hardener, so you're getting the look you want and learning how to use it all at the same time. And don't forget about trying color hardener on stamped concrete steps. This could be a game changer for you. Well guys, that's pretty much it for today's show. Hopefully this video was helpful in finding the best color for your concrete project. Please leave us a comment if we missed anything, or if you have any questions on color hardener or integral color. And if you're already subscribed, please don't forget about that little bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and it really does help our channel out. So from all of us here at Deco-Crete TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.